It was so crazy to watch.
It's amazing how far forward, too, those ideas come. When I was younger, there was an organization which did that called NAMBLA.
Yeah, I remember that.
NAMBLA?
Yeah, North American Man-Boy Love Association.
And, like, I remember, though, the first time I was introduced to that, to the concept of NAMBLA, I was watching TV with my dad, and it was like a news story that was on. And it was actually at a gay pride parade, interestingly enough, and they were running the NAMBLA. NAMBLA guys out of the gay pride parade, like the
old school gays.
Yeah, they were running them out. They're like, we're not associated with these people. Get them out of here. And like, my dad's trying to explain this concept to me of what's going on because I was extremely confused. You know, like, what? I don't understand what's happening here. How do you explain that, though?
Right.
You know, you can't really explain.
Especially a kid doesn't even think about sex.
Yeah, of course.
And then you're telling them somebody wants to have sex with you. You're like, what are you saying?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. And he, you know, my old man sitting in his chair, he said something akin to like, they ought to take them all, put them up against the wall, and that's the end of them. And I don't really blame him.
If you have kids, that's exactly what you think.
Yeah, of course.
That's exactly what you think. Like, there's some people that are just unredeemable. You know?
Well,
people want to kidnap your kids or rape your kids. Yeah, that's unredeemable.
But now this concept moves forward to the maps, and now they're assigning it psychological profiling for minor attracted person. And you know what the argument is? The argument is, well, you want them to come forward so you can give them treatment. Now, you know, there's one treatment that works for this that is almost 100% effective. You can pull the stat right now if you don't believe me. It's called chemical castration. It's a real treatment for pedophiles. And it almost has a 0% recidivism rate after they've been chemically castrated. So their idea is they come forward for treatment. You know, my counter idea is, why not just chemically castrate them?
Yeah, yeah.
If you really were concerned about them going off and living a normal life.
And if they really want to get free of that horrible thing, whatever fucking human demon error it's inside of them that makes them do that, that's the way. And that also is the same medication that they give to children when they're hormone blocking.
Yeah. Which is equally disturbing for a different reason.
And disturbing how many people just accept it and support it. And you ask them, like, how much do you know about this? Like, what are you saying? You think children should be able to make the decision when they're 4 or 5 years old to never go through puberty? You really think that? And there's people that will argue that with a straight face. They know. They know. I had an argument with a guy on this podcast years ago that's like viral about it. I'm like, that is like, if the child thinks that they are trans, right? If they think they're a woman, why not just let them be a woman? Why do you have to give them hormones?
And
like,
aren't
if you're
you
saying
stop the argument if the child thinks?
Right. Well, childs think that they're ponies.
Yeah.
I'm a pony.
Yeah.
Like, also, like, kids grow out of things, you know? Like, going through puberty is a fucking wild experience for a child. And the idea that you can come along and give them a bunch of positive reinforcement for saying the reason why you're upset is because you're actually a this, and we need to give you medication, or we need to stop you going through puberty. And the kid all of a sudden gets all this. attention, everyone's focused on them, they're telling them they're fabulous, and they really think there's a ton of these detransitioners out there, and their stories are horrific, not just in the fact that they did this to them and they removed their breasts when they were 15, they gave them testosterone, they'll never be able to have children, but also that they're attacked relentlessly by other people that think that they should never, that they are against the trans movement and they should never be saying what they're saying. They shouldn't be telling their stories.
They come out in force.
Yeah, it's
come
crazy.
out in force. They bully them. Everything else that they can do.
It's crazy. They've already been. They're a victim of the zeitgeist.
Do you know what the trans code for that is? It's really funny. They do then it was always the case that you really weren't. So they try to make it an unfalsifiable claim. You see, the reason you detransitioned is because you were never really trans to begin with.
Oh boy. Well, if that's the case, if they really believe that, wouldn't they want to have a smaller net, so that they're not catching the people that they...
Well, and how are you not putting parents in prison who are trying to convince their kids of what their sex is or isn't? They're like designer kids.
But it's just crazy, too, because they get praised for it. It's like they have Whitney Cummings said, it's like having a trans kid is like having a pride flag on your porch. Like there's a lot of, especially in Hollywood, man. In Hollywood, it's really weirdly common, where it doesn't make sense that this didn't exist. Exist 20 years ago. You tell me these people just lived in quiet desperation 20 years ago, really secretly wishing that they were a woman. but now they get to be free, and we should applaud this. Are you sure? Or do you have children? Because if you have children, you know how easily influenced they are. That's why they make children suicide bombers, because they don't know any better. You know?
Well, you know what's interesting? If you go back to, would you say, for instance, that right now we're far more accepting of trans kids than they ever would have been in like 1920, 1930?
100%.
100%, right? So my question is always like, well, then how come the teen suicide was so low? when the kids like couldn't come out to express their the fact that they needed to transition, right? When there wasn't that parental reinforcement. Because the argument that they make is the kids have to be able to do this or else they're going to unalive them, right? They're going to kill themselves if you don't let them do this. And it's like, well, then how come if there's the same amount of trans people before, they just weren't able to come forward? They just weren't able.
The problem with that argument that they say, would you rather have a live son or a dead daughter? That argument. The argument doesn't work when you look at the actual statistics of people transition.
Not even close.
It goes the opposite way.
Yeah.
It's also, you have to take into consideration the ubiquitous use of psychiatric drugs, and that a lot of these, they're very recent in terms of like how many people have been prescribed these things, and we're finding out that it's not really what they said it was in the first place. There's no chemical imbalance. It's not real. So then you have to think, like, well, what is the effect of these things? And what are we doing with these things? Are you getting people addicted to these things and hooked on them, where they're going to be on it for life? Then there's this effect where it numbs your genitals. It stops you from being able to ever have an orgasm ever for some people. That's one of the more horrible side effects of these things. And you have pharmaceutical drug companies that are pushing them on people, and a ton of people are on them. So you have depressed kids going through puberty, entrapped in this insane fucking moment in history where people think it makes sense to give a child hormones before they even hit puberty, or block their hormones before they even hit puberty. And you're giving them psychiatric drugs. You're just like flooding them with all sorts of shit, whether it's psychological or chemical. And depending upon what side of the ideological spectrum you are on, you either think it's amazing or you think it's a crime against humanity. That's crazy. That's crazy.
It's crazy, and it's a crime against humanity. And you know what's really interesting about it? This is the side that screams about consent more than any other side, right? This is the side of the feminists. This is the side of the, everything is based around consent and consent.
If you have a couple drinks, you can't consent.
You can't have sex. If you're raping each other, if you're drunk and she's drunk together, right?
You're both criminals.
You're both criminals.
Yeah.
And yet they somehow seem to think that like an 8 or 9 or 10-year-old can consent.
No, there's so much that from both sides, that's insane. But there's so much on the left that's so insane when it comes to contradictions. One of my favorite new ones is the Mamdani grocery stores. They said, how are you going to ensure that people from New York have access to this grocery store? Well, they're going to have to show ID.
But not to vote.
Yes.
But not to vote.
But how crazy is it that your checkers game is so shitty that you're like, oh, yeah, here we go. And people are like, do you know what you just did?
Yeah.
Do you know what you just did?
Put yourself a checkmate.
Jesus fucking Christ, that is the dumbest thing I've ever seen anybody say when you just got done saying that you don't want people to show ID for voting. Because it'll
disenfranchise them.
Especially poor people. They're talking about poor people and people of color, which are the people that you would think the poor people are the ones who are going to use your grocery stores. So you're going to disenfranchise them from getting access to your 30% off groceries.
You know what's bizarre about that argument,
They
too?
won't ask for ID. Meaning New Yorkers can buy cheap goods. But they asked him today, and that was what he indicated, that they were going to find out whether or not you're actually from New York. Well, how else are you going to do that?
You have to have ID.
I think this is just a response to the reaction, like saying that. August 3rd, which is today, right?
Yeah.
Right. So this is what they said after what he said. So what he said was yesterday. So there's probably a massive blowback where people realize how crazy it is to say that. But it's also, the whole thing is like, what are we doing? What are we doing? What are we doing? Are we trying socialism? There's like a giant percentage of the population that thinks that's a good idea. It's like 34%.
Coming out of the East again, by the way.
They really believe it, too. They really believe Believe it.
Well,
What-
you recently pissed off Chelsea Handler, I saw.
I didn't know.
You didn't know?
No.
Oh.
What happened?
Well, I guess she's very upset with you because she believes that you're an evil capitalist pig who makes too much money.
Oh, that's funny. She's rich. That's crazy.
It is crazy.
That's
right?
what she
But-
said. I make too much. There's a certain
Yeah,
number.
that's
There's a
what she
certain
was.
number you should
Yeah,
make.
yeah. She was very, very perturbed.
Oh, I think she's just getting attention. I can't be bothered. But I know her. I've known her forever. I wrote a book.
Is that him? Oh, fuck off, man. Who the
Blurb
fuck
for one of her earlier books. Never had a bad word to say about her publicly. Every time I've seen her, I think I've given her a hug. So I don't know what's going on, but it has nothing to do with me. You know, whatever it is,
Well, I bring it
zero to
up
do
because
with me.
it sounds like seething jealousy. And so the interesting part is like, I think a lot of the socialism stuff that's moving out of the East has a lot to do with that too. There's the idea of class jealousy.
There's a little bit of that, but there's also a little bit of young kids really feel like the system is rigged and that these pigs have gobbled up all the gold, and they're being told that. And so this is a thing, you know, like Billie Eilish said, hey, man, no one needs to be a billionaire. Give away your money, homie. Like it's
crazy.
It's crazy because you're rich.
Yes,
okay, and
very rich.
You also live on a house that's on Indian land. You know, you see the Native Americans that originally owned the land in which her house is?
No,
Like, yeah,
no, I don't.
But it's the idea comes from a good place. I know in their heart of hearts they think that they're being kind and they think that they're doing the right thing. They really do. They think they're being inclusive. They think they're righting the wrongs of colonialism. They really think that.
Yeah.
And they think that this idea of democratic socialism is a really good idea because there are some examples of socialist policies that do work, like the fire department, and there's a bunch of stuff that makes sense. But the problem.
Waiting targeting data.
Oh my god, what a fucking weirdo, bro.
Problem with enforcing any of this stuff that they don't understand is it always comes down to power. You have to have massive authority and usually guns because you can't just steal people's money. They're not going to let you. They're not going to let you just come in and decide, hey, we just devised a new tax where everybody who makes more than $500,000 a year, everything over that, you have to give 100% to the state.
Or 95, whatever it
And
is.
here's the thing. Here's the thing with the argument. Even if you said, oh, wouldn't it be great if they did contribute more and wouldn't it be, but they have so much money, wouldn't it set up the world in a better place? Sure. But the fucking program that you have in place that takes the taxes and disseminates it is massively flawed and corrupt. It's corrupt. It's filled with waste. Filled with waste. There's scammers all over the place. You've got $24 billion missing in just the homeless in California. And then they veto the audits when everybody's trying to find out. So just
And that's
saying
just the tip of the iceberg.
more taxes is what we need is nuts. The first thing you should do is clean your fucking house.
Yeah.
Clean your house. If you want more money, you got to figure out what you did with the first money. Why is there so much waste? Why is there so much money missing? Why do you have 38,000 NGLs? Why do the people running the homeless business, because it is a business, why are they making $750,000? That's a lot of money.
It's a lot to administrate the homeless camps.
Yeah,
Joe.
they need to eat well. They need to go to Felix and have a nice dinner.
It's hilarious to me, too. You saw all the waste and fraud that's been going on in these various states when it comes to elder people getting their funds, right?
Yes,
You've
yes.
seen all of this happening. And of course, they're all trying to run away from it as quickly as possible. But this is the problem, and I bring it back kind of to this idea of the class system. When you have under universal suffrage especially, when you have the voters outnumber the wealthy, you can just vote yourself a raise. You can always vote yourself more money from
Right.
whatever the upper class is. And that has been progressive dogma and doctrine since I was a kid. The entire idea is, hey, things are fundamentally unfair, and that's not your fault. So what we have to do is get together and vote ourselves a raise from the upper class. That's what we got to do. But it fundamentally ignores how wealth is created. And wealth is not created by giving somebody money.
Right.
But what happens when you give somebody money is they go and spend it, but they usually don't use it to generate wealth. It almost never, in fact, they use it to generate wealth. And so you vote yourself these raises, you vote yourself from the public treasury money to yourself. But what does it actually do for you ultimately? Because that's not how you generate wealth. Ever.
Not only that, you incentivize people to move to a place that's more friendly to their economic ideas.
True. You also, but one of the fundamental kind of ideas here that's flawed, how many times can you vote yourself the wealth of those above you
Right.
before they have no more wealth to give you? Out east, in fact, when you see these communists, Mamdani, things like this, they're going to institute all of their programs on your dime. It's not
Right.
like they have money. And whenever I talk to people about wealth disparity, what's really funny to me is they always seem to think that the government can just materialize wealth without there having to be some payback for that wealth.
Yeah.
We saw this during COVID-19 and the lockdowns. You remember they were handing out money like it was candy to various businesses that were shut down, COVID relief funds, things like this. And then they go, oh, inflation's out of control. Yeah, is it?
Yeah.
You're kidding, is it? Do you mean the government can't just materialize $1 trillion and not inflate the money supply? Well, that's just go figure.
Right.
And so a lot of times these socialists, they even try to make the promise like, hey, we're only going to tax them after this rate, but it's never enough money for them to fund their socialist programs to begin with. The government will have to materialize money.
Not only that, if you give them more money, they're going to expand the government.
100%.
They will expand. And they will expand their programs, and they'll expand the fraud, and they'll expand the waste. The other weird thing that Mamdani's done is make a list of all the people that are rich. Did you see that?
Yeah.
He released a list of all the people that may have to pay more taxes. It's like, hey, what are you doing? You just made a list of targets, and you're putting these people in a bad position. Like that seems really crazy to do.
But don't you think that these people they actually do think that wealthy people are evil?
I don't know if he does. I think that's it's a bit of you're going along with whichever way that plastic bag is flying in the breeze. And that's where it's flying right now, is that wealthy people are evil. So you say that, and it's a great excuse to tax the shit out of them. And it's also a great excuse to pretend that, you're making meaningful change and you're really doing the right thing for the community.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the big thing. It's all
Why
got to
you
be for
destroy the community.
Yeah, why you destroy the community. Because the money is going to leave the state. The money's going to leave the city. And that's the reality and it's not that they're greedy. It's that they don't want you to take their money. You didn't earn it. You didn't make an iPhone. Go fuck yourself. And if you think that people should have a cap on how much money they make based on, what arbitrary numbers that you come up in your own head, well, you're going to exclude any extraordinary outliers from creating incredible products,
Destroys
massive
innovation.
companies. Yeah, maybe it's nuts that someone wants to be a trillionaire. Yeah, I agree. I don't want. It seems fucking insane, but you have to have the freedom to be able to want to do that if you're all playing the same game. If you're playing a game and you decide I only need 250 points, and this one guy's like, I'm gonna fucking 100 million points, like that crazy guy, that Tiger Woods guy, that guy who's gonna fucking practice 12 hours a day, he's gonna make the most. He's gonna do the most. He's gonna make the bigger company. He's gonna put more in it.
Yeah.
He's gonna die of cancer because he fucking is. massively stressed out 24 hours a day. That's his prerogative. You should be concerned if that person has an undue influence in your life.
Well, and they
You should
already
be
tax
concerned.
the hell out of him anyway.
They do.
They already tax the bejesus out of these people anyway.
And there's an illusion and a bad narrative that they're not responsible for an enormous percentage of the taxes.
Oh, yeah,
that they
they
don't
are.
pay their share. They pay an enormous amount. They make way more. They pay way more than the average person. They're responsible for a huge percentage of New York City's tax revenue, a huge percentage. And in California, like a massive percentage of the tax revenue is like a half a dozen people.
Well, and a lot of times the people in California that they claim are rich and really need, they're farmers. They're farmers who are driving huge revenue because they own a lot of land.
Right.
And it's like, but they're producing a huge amount of food. What is it like? Most of the produce of the United States comes out of one state, California, and they're a net exporter.
You know, another thing that we were talking about fraud with old.
I'm trash. What the fuck? I was lagging a little bit as well.
People that I just found out recently. I was listening to Michael Easter. Do you know who he is? He what is his The Comfort Dilemma? Is that his book? Very interesting guy. He's been on the podcast a couple times, but he was talking about the blue zones. You know those blue zones where, as you light a cigarette, where everybody